at all that fancy stuff, huh? What do you think of that? Is that all right? So, hey, everybody, I really appreciate everybody joining us tonight here on the Sports Spirit Spectacular Saturday show. We got a little Game 6 action going on. It was not planned. I have a special guest, as you can see, Jon from Off the Wall Hockey. Jon, why don't you tell everybody about yourself and where they can find you?
Yeah, so I'm a hockey YouTuber that covers primarily the NHL. I'm on YouTube, just Off the Wall Hockey. My channel's closing in now on almost 10,000 subscribers, and
Awesome.
also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the social medias. But YouTube's the big game for me, and it's been awesome to cover NHL this year and really for the last few years.
Cool, man. Yeah, I found you through our mutual friend, Hot Take Hockey.
Yep.
And immediately loved you because you were American.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was like, yeah, hey, this guy's cool. And you're real great play-by-play. I listened to a lot of your live streams play-by-play, but you've been doing a lot of the playoff games, so I've been trying to listen in. I love your insight on hockey. Now, did you play in high school or college? Can you tell a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I played hockey. I started when I was 6 years old. My dad was a hockey player growing up.
Nice.
My grandfather was big into hockey, so it really ran in the family from the start. It's always been my favorite sport. I started playing when I was 6. I played for 12 years all the way through high school, and then that was the end of the road of my playing days. But I mean, I've always, been the type where if there's hockey on TV, I'm watching it. It doesn't matter the teams, doesn't matter who's playing. Like, I watch as much hockey as I can, and just always kind of fell in love with it early on, and have been a huge fan since.
Well, you're a dyed-in-the-wool Bruins fan, right? Being from Massachusetts.
Yes,
Boston's
my number one team, absolutely.
Yeah. That's got it. To me, I was going to ask you, you come from such a rich hockey background. Would your family consider adopting a 45-year-old veteran? Because I just have always wanted to have that family that was crazy about hockey.
Oh, they might be in on that for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I would, Thanksgiving and, I just love that. I'm with you, man. I don't know when I fell in love with the sport. I want to say it was like 93 playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings and the Maple Leafs. I got to see the game. I happened to be in Spokane, not see the game in person, but like on television.
Yep.
And the Leafs extended it to go to Game 6, or I can't remember. But Doug Gilmour was the player of the game. So Doug Gilmour was always my favorite player, and he still is. I mean, I like Ovechkin a lot, being a Capitals fan.
Yeah.
But most of my listeners know how I became one, but I can tell you if you didn't know, because where I'm from, you're like, oh, how do you like? I should be a Bruins fan, right? Because of my mom's side of the family, right?
Yeah.
But my mom's side of the family didn't care much about sports other than the Celtics a little bit. And then my dad's side of the family, where I get my Dodgers and Lakers fandom from, was my grandma. My father's mother was a huge Lakers and Dodgers fan. So I grew up with those teams. And then I lived in New York when I was a kid, so I became a Giants fan. That was kind of the first thing I fell in love with was football. But hockey, I never had a team. And then when I was stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia, like 2002, I listened to the Caps on the radio. They had Yager. They weren't very good. They had went to the Cup in like 98 with Bondra and that Adam Oates, and they got swept by that Red Wings team that like mowed everybody down once they finally got their first W. But boy, those Red Wings. And then when I was in the Army up here, I had a couple of buddies. One was from Detroit and one was from Colorado. So we're the best. It was just so good. We'd be getting drunk in the barracks watching in my opinion, some of the best playoff hockey.
Oh, absolutely.
Between the Detroit Red Wings and the Colorado Avalanche. And it was all out war.
Yep.
That's
when you think of NHL rivalries, that is the first one that immediately pops into my head, of that short period of time of it literally being an all-out war between teams. And I don't think we'll ever get that in the NHL again, the way that it was in the late 90s. But for anyone who's a hockey fan, that is kind of like that premier rivalry of, like Bruins and Canadians is kind of the most historic rivalry.
Yeah,
But when you
that's
look
a
at
great one too.
when you look at the most hatred in a short period of time between two teams, I don't think it gets any more hated than the Red Wings and Avs in the late 90s.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hard to hate French Canadians. Okay. So it is easy to root against Montreal.
I certainly have no problem with that.
I will never, ever, ever get over the playoff series the Capitals lost in the first round of Montreal when we were one of the best teams. And for 2 games, we had the number 1 power play in the NHL. We didn't get a single power play for 2 games. Dude, I'm all for calling playoff hockey, but when Alexander Ovechkin is the same size, height, weight, and playing weight that Lawrence Taylor was for the New York Giants, 6'3", 237. Okay, that's probably what Ovechkin comes into camp weighing. I'm just going to guess. So, he doesn't fall over easily. Okay. But I want to talk a little bit about a guy that plays for your team, because I've said for years that, 10 years, go back in time, 10 years. I said, if I could pick one player to start my team around, it would be Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah.
Because that guy is so effing good.
Yeah.
He's the best face-off guy I've ever seen in my life. He's also very gifted offensively, but he is not going to let anybody score on him because he's like we were talking. I don't know if it was your stream. I was sitting in your stream, but somebody brought it up where they should just rename the Selke
to Bergeron. Yeah,
it might have been Steve Dangle. I heard it somewhere, so I don't want to not credit where I heard it. But I'm like, because Selke wasn't a player, whatever. But I'll tell you right now, I would be okay with them changing the Selke to the Bergeron. Because he is that guy. I hope he wins it this year, so he has it more than anybody.
Yep.
And it's my favorite award, too, in all of hockey. I think it is. Gilmore won it in 93. That doesn't hurt because he's my all-time favorite player.
Yeah.
But dude, I love that type of player, and I love that type. I think Bergeron's incredible. I hope he has not played his last game for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
But I totally would understand if he retired. He is a Hall of Famer tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely.
They could waive it, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, Patrice Bergeron's my all-time favorite player. Just he's been with the Bruins, drafted in 2003, immediately came in and played as an 18-year-old.
The best draft ever, by the way.
Yeah.
And draft.
So I was, still in elementary school in 2003, and I've basically watched him my entire hockey life. I've watched Patrice Bergeron. So he's become my favorite player on the Bruins in all the NHL. And I really hope he wins it this year because I want him to have 5. That would be more than anybody else.
Me too.
I think he's the greatest two-way player in the NHL history. I agree. He is the guy that can produce offensively and also play the shutdown defensive role. There were some really good ones throughout the years. There's,
Well, so you could make. So here's the thing. Like when I think of defensive centers, like Michael Pekka, great defensive player, but really never put up the kind of offensive numbers something Bergeron can put up. That's what you say when you truly say a two-way player.
Yeah. Pavel Datsyuk was another one where just incredible at both ends of the ice.
And he never took a penalty either.
Yeah.
So he was winning the Lady Bin and the Selke.
Yep. Datsyuk was unreal. Obviously, if you go back to the, 80s, Bob Gainey won the Selke 4 times. He's, tied with Bergeron with the most ever right now. He was a
good general manager too. Good general manager.
Yeah, but I hope Bergeron wins the 5th because I think when you look at that type of player, I think he's the best to do it at both ends of the ice that way. And I think I'd love to see him win it more times than anybody else. And I'm biased, I guess, because he's my favorite player ever.
I don't think you're biased, dude. I think it's deserving. I do
too. I mean,
if you ask anybody in the NHL that's an objective fan that doesn't hate Boston, they're objective. They can be they can be focused on both sides of the argument. There's no way you can't say Patrice Bergeron has been, if not one of the greatest two-way centers of all time.
Oh yeah.
He's incredible. And you know, like Crosby, excellent two-way player.
Yep.
Very good. Got way better. He just is not the defensive player that Bergeron is. And he cannot win the faceoffs that consistently that Bergeron is, even though Crosby drastically increased. He's always gotten better. Look, I'm not crapping on Crosby. Like, he's incredible. So,
I think Bergeron's just a premier shutdown center. Like, the guy that is going to.
If you could pick one player in NHL history to just shut the other side down. I was giving my wife a little bit of a hard time tonight because I don't know if you saw ESPN kind of low key was capping on Chris Kreider because they said Shesterkin has 2 points this series and Kreider has 1. So I was like, whoa, they're capping on Kreider a little bit here. And my wife was like, that's bullshit. She starts looking it up. She doesn't even get that. And she's like, well, and I said, well, I was defending Kreider. I was saying, hey, how many goals have been scored against Kreider? Because he's a pretty good two-way player. He doesn't get the credit for being he's not a fun player to play against. I'm not saying he's Bergeron, but wingers that can defend. It looks like there's a penalty here too, by the way. I don't know who's going to get it, but it's 4-2, 16:05 left in the third. That's about what I got. I don't know what you're seeing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, man. I think he's one of those guys I think of that's a good defensive winger, and Mark Stone,
Yeah. I mean, for Mark Stone to even be a Selke finalist last year, you don't see wingers get the defensive credit. I mean, that is pretty much a center award. So for Stone to even be a finalist last year was crazy and shows, how good he is defensively. Fortunately, he missed so much time this year with injury that, we didn't really get to see Mark Stone be the true Mark Stone this season. But Kreider's a guy that's very good defensively from a winger position, which doesn't, they don't get looked at as defensive players very often. But he's a guy that plays well in his own end.
Well, and I have to say this. I think the pressure that's put on Kreider for offensive numbers is right. He scored 50 this year.
Yeah, which is blows away his previous career.
I think he's the first Ranger to ever do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he finished with 55 or something.
Yeah, at 50, I forget off the top of my head. I don't want to say
he was giving Matthews a little bit of a run.
It was around 54, I think, something like that.
What did Matthews finish with? 60?
He got 60. Yeah,
he did get 60.
First 60 goal season in a while.
And you know what, man? I just love it because he's American, and he comes out of that market that everybody says is trash. But I'm telling you, man, I went to 2 games this year in Phoenix, and they were just the best. Mm-hmm. They were so good. Look at this. Yeah, got somebody appreciating the Kreider love. Ray Bro, we'll get back to your state. Ray Bro says we all know Ray Bro. Ray Bro, shout out Ray Bro.
Oh, yeah. Legend.
Patrice gone really hurts the Bruins so much. Yeah, but we don't know yet, Ray Bro. We're not sure. He hasn't made the decision. It did look a little finite, but everybody, I have seen him do what he did at the end of that Bruins game like 100 times.
Yeah, I don't think he knows. I mean, he's got to see how he feels after he has the time to kind of process everything, process getting knocked out of the playoffs, feel how his body feels, because he's a guy that he's played through a lot of injuries. He's been injured, at points in his career, and a lot of those he's played through, which, when you're 36, 37 years old, he's got to catch up.
You can't be the greatest two-way player of all time and not get dinged up a little bit.
Yeah, and he's had his injuries, and at this point, I think he's just trying to figure out, does he want to go through it for another 82-game season?
Yeah. And I don't think there's a single person that would blame him. Speaking of which, my wife was saying, appreciate the Kreider love. That's for my wife. Thank you, wife. I appreciate it. Stephanie, thank you for watching and supporting. Chris Kreider drew a double minor. when all this was going down. But it looks like Zibanejad took a penalty, so it'll be some 4-on-4 here, 4-2 with like 15 something left. How have you? I think we probably have sung enough praises about Patrice Bergeron, but I could do a whole hour.
Yeah.
I mean, just everything about the guy is just exudes class and grace and dignity. And I think from what I understand, he's been awesome in the Boston community.
Oh, incredible. Off the ice, incredible leader in the locker room, and obviously a tremendous player on the ice.
It'd be ironic that it'd be his and possibly Chara's last year. What can you say about Big Z, this being also same, right?
Everything that he did for the Bruins. And, people forget how bad the Bruins were Chara's first year here, that 2006 season, before they really started to turn it around and head on that upward trajectory.
Right.
Chara was the cornerstone that they built their defense around to, eventually become a cup winning team, and a team that for the last, 15 years is for the most part been a playoff team almost every year. And, just perennially throughout much of the 2010s, they were a contender, and Chara was one of the biggest reasons why. So he's another guy that is instant as soon as he retires, Hall of Fame, and his number will be retired by the Bruins, as will Bergeron's. And just a guy that
rightfully so.
Yeah, and even though that he didn't end his career with the Bruins, Chara, he'll always come. Every time he comes back to Boston, he will get a standing ovation for the rest of his life.
I actually thought it was kind of cool that he kind of ended his career where it started, in New York Island.
Yeah, with the Islanders. Of all the places for him to go, I think that was,
boy,
to the team that drafted him so many years ago now.
I feel, I mean, that's one of those teams I don't root against is the Islanders. Because, the last time they were good, I was like 7.
Yeah.
And what a tough year for Islanders fans in general. Talked about that on the last show a little bit with big time Kim, as I'm calling her. I said, they lost Clark Gillies, Mike Bossy. I mean, I think Mike Bossy probably, 800 goals if he doesn't have, the back problems and stuff. If he's healthy, like Alex Ovechkin's been able to be healthy. I also say Ovechkin should easily have at least another 100 goals just based on lockouts and COVID things. And, he missed his rookie year.
Yep.
He stole a Calder from Crosby because Crosby deserved to be rookie of the year his year too. And so Ovechkin would have probably won an 04. Would have been interesting. I don't know. He has been so exciting to watch.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to be so sad when he's done, but I'm like just some of the kids coming now. Like I've watched a lot of McDavid because being on the West Coast, like it's easy to catch those games a lot easier because they're on so much earlier. So like, for me, I've just never seen anybody like him do what he does at a high rate of speed,
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. And I couldn't believe, like, I don't even think Calgary played bad. Like, I think they got jobbed, but in the last game, that goal should have counted, but I don't even think Calgary played bad. I don't know. What were your assessments of that series?
I think that, Jacob Markstrom was not good. And goaltending is such an important piece of the puzzle, especially in the playoffs. And Markstrom, just for a guy that had a Vezina caliber season and was one of the best goalies all year long, to almost turn into Mike Smith. I mean, in a series against Mike Smith. But for him to turn into Mike Smith in that series really hurt Calgary's chances. And obviously the top players for Edmonton were Calgary just couldn't touch them. Calgary couldn't stop them. And then you had, Hyman playing really well. You had Evander Kane scoring. So that made things really difficult on Calgary defensively. So then you had to think about it as, okay, can we outscore these guys? And they just didn't get enough points-wise from Gaudreau and Tkachuk and Lindholm and Backlund and Mangiapane. And they
I thought it was more the secondary guys for Calgary that were scoring, like Coleman and Mangiapane and Dubé and stuff.
Yeah,
they didn't hear a lot from. I thought Tkachuk played fine. Didn't he have a hat trick in one game? So
yeah,
I don't think he was terrible. Goudreau seemed like he was there. I don't know.
They got worse as the series went along and disappeared more as the series went along. And it was at a time where if you were going to get into that run and gun series, that you needed those guys to be putting up, over a point per game, and they weren't. And at the end of the day, they just get outscored, and there was no defensive way for them to stop Draisaitl and McDavid and Hyman and Kane and those guys, and they just got flat out outscored because Markstrom couldn't steal games in goal.
Yeah. I also thought that Calgary had the recipe to beat Edmonton. It's called Rangers just scored on a 2-man advantage, by the way, to make it 5-2.
All right, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm going to say we got a game 7.
Yeah, I think it's going 7. I told my wife I think it's 7, and I think the Rangers won. I have picked every series correct so far except for Boston over Carolina.
Yeah,
I thought I said that was going to go 7. I really could have seen it go either way.
Yeah,
I just thought I wasn't sure about Ronta, and there were a lot of, there were hockey experts that no one didn't pick Canes. No disrespect to the Canes or anything like that. It's just and I like that team. This has actually been, I think, one of the sneaky best series because no team has really played poorly. It's been really pretty good, close games.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh series, I know, was pretty controversial. What'd you think? What were your thoughts were you on the side of the Pittsburgh fans, or did you see it the way? Do you think the Rangers were dirty in that series? I thought I saw nothing from the Trouba hit at all. Like I was like,
no, that was like more of a collision than anything else.
You could not convince me that was on purpose.
No, that was more of an awkward collision than anything else. But no, I think that the Rangers showed a tremendous amount of resiliency in that series, especially for such a young team. A lot of times you get in a situation like that where you're down 3-1, a young team would just crumble and be like, okay, well, on to next year. And that wasn't the case at all. That's a team that never gave up, a team that just kept fighting and showed a tremendous maturity and resiliency that I was not expecting a team as young as the New York Rangers to have.
I agree. I 1,000,000% agree with you.
The injuries caught up with Pittsburgh, and I think that probably would have ended differently had Pittsburgh had the full complement of players and not had Louis Domingue in goal.
I'm going to tell you, so I went to the NHL All-Star game this year.
Yep.
Jari won it for the Metro.
Yeah.
He was incredible. In person, watching him, I was like, oh my God, Pittsburgh does not have a problem in goal. And when I kept trying to tell John and everybody else that was doing the rumors, like, oh, Marc-Andre Fleury to Pittsburgh. I was like, Pittsburgh doesn't need him.
Yeah.
They have the guy in net and Jari. If he's healthy, and he came back for game 7, and I actually
with a broken foot.
Fine.
Yeah, with a broken foot.
Yeah, I thought he played fine. Getting a little chippy right now. I got to tell you, I've been a little frustrated with the NHL because they're not letting guys throw hands in the playoffs, and I think it would cool the tensions a little bit. I think they forget that every once in a while a fight's not necessarily a bad thing.
There's also, I think, a lack of players actually that will throw hands. Like, they love to push and shove, but the actual guys that will throw hands are few and far between.
Well, Ryan Reeves will, but there's not many that will tussle with him.
Carolina's got nobody that would even attempt to go with him.
Right. So. Martinook, I think, if he was healthy, would throw hands. You don't think?
I don't think Carolina's got anybody on that roster that would want anything to do with Ryan Reeves.
So let's talk that then, because they beat your Bruins, and that was did that go 7?
Yep, that was a 7-gamer. Home team won every game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Carolina's good at home. I really was not surprised they beat Boston.
No, I predicted Carolina to win that series. And I mean, that's a very well put together team.
Yeah.
They're very good defensively.
I
Obviously, Ronta has been their starter for the playoffs because Freddie Anderson's been out. They don't even have their starting goaltender, and it doesn't look like they've even missed a beat. I
agree.
think their structure has a lot to do with that because they don't put a lot of pressure on the goaltender and most of the time. Obviously, there's exceptions in certain games where they might have a
Right.
bad night, but for the most part, they're such a well-structured team that they don't put a lot of pressure on the goalies. And they were the top defensive team as far as goals against go in the regular season, so they're a tough team to score on. It was funny, the games in Boston, the Bruins were actually able to score. They put up 4 or 5 goals on them, but they couldn't win in Carolina. And so far, nobody's been able to win
Yeah.
in Carolina except Carolina. So
Yeah,
I
it looks
thought that
like
was a
you're gonna
very
have a
hard
game
fought.
7 there too.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah,
tell you what I like about it. I like that home ice means something
yeah.
again because it was starting to feel like it didn't for a while. Well, I could say this: it didn't mean shit for the Capitals this year because they couldn't fucking do a damn thing to save themselves on home ice. They were absolutely abysmal.
Yeah,
They
it's
were
funny that
incredible on the road.
there's a
So
few teams that it works out that way sometimes where they're actually better on the road.
yeah,
Doesn't usually happen, but yeah, Carolina's been the team where home ice has been huge, and obviously Colorado's another team that's very very good at home, but they
there's a
lost home games
strategic
to the
advantage
Blues.
of there too. You know that mile
Hmm.
high is no joke.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, But yeah, it's good to see home ice mean something, but at the same time, I think if you're going to be a championship level team, you've got to be able to win road games. I
Well,
mean,
that's Colorado, right? We were wondering because Blues were taking them to the max, and I wonder if Pennington doesn't get injured. Does Colorado get through there? What do you think of that series?
yeah, I think that's a hypothetical that we'll never know, but I certainly think that Binnington getting injured played a role in how that
Yeah,
series turned out because
I
he was
agree.
playing so well for the Blues before he got hurt. So
Out of
there's
his freaking
yeah,
mind.
there's
Yeah.
no way that didn't affect the series when he went out.
Yeah, I really thought it was what changed it. And I thought Colorado got lucky. Now, I don't think it was dirty. I don't think Kadri
No,
and
I
then,
think
the death
Callie
threats and
Rosen, St. Louis's defenseman, was the one that caused the whole collision more than
yeah.
anything else.
You know what, man? I don't understand why they coach guys to run guys like that. You're just better off letting the guy get by you. What's the
The
worst that's going to happen if you stay in front of the goalie and protect the net? The
Yeah,
guy gets the puck away from your other defenseman and you have a turnover. Okay, big deal. You don't end up taking your goalie out and tearing his MCL or whatever happened.
the
I
amount of
never made
goalies
sense why these guys cross check other dudes into their goalie.
into their own goalie. I've seen that so much
Oh,
over the past 2, 3 years. I don't understand it. I've probably seen it hundreds of times over the last few years where
yeah.
defensemen drive opposing team players into their own goalie, and it makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about the Capitals Florida series, but I just think the Capitals were so banged up
Yeah.
and then they let the game slip away. With no Wilson, Backstrom's basically career is over, it sounds like. I don't know if you've seen that stuff from Russian Machine Never Breaks, but it looks like
Yeah, it's
he's
not looking
probably
good.
not going to play again.
Yeah.
He said it was not sustainable, and I knew something was wrong. I mean, he played second line most of the year. I mean,
Yeah.
Kuznetsov had a pretty good year. So anyway, I feel like not much to say in those, but what about Florida just whimpering against Tampa Bay? I was surprised.
Yeah, I
I picked
wasn't.
Tampa to beat them, but I
Yeah,
I I said 6 or 7.
yeah, I'm with you. I knew Tampa obviously could win that series. I mean, they're the defending champs for a reason, but
Yeah.
I was not expecting it to be as one-sided as it was. I thought Florida would look a lot better than they did, and
Yeah.
they didn't. Now, what I will say, obviously they're taking a lot of flack because they were the best team in the regular season. They had all this firepower offensively that completely dried up in the playoffs for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, they, I think they had a good year overall. I think one of the things to remember with Florida though is that this is a team that throughout their history has not been very good. Does not have a lot of
Yeah,
playoff
yeah.
success. And
Last
this
time
year,
they got out of the second round was 96 when they went to the finals, right?
yeah, they hadn't won a playoff series since 1996, which happens to be the year I was born. So you're talking about a long time now
I
without.
graduated high school that year.
Yeah, so we're talking a long time there without any playoff success for that team. So
Right.
there's still that element of they need to learn how to win, which, that's
Yeah.
a process. It's not very often teams go from not making the playoffs to just going on deep runs. Like there has to be that learning process for a few years. They got knocked out in the first round last year. They made it to the second round this year, which was a step up.
But I felt like they locked into some win. Like if Garnet Hathaway buries the empty net, Caps go up 3-1. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
Tom Wilson plays 1 minute of a game, scored a goal against them, and then didn't play the rest of the series.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. They had things go their way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I still think you have to look at it as a positive. I think just because the expectations were so high going into the playoffs because of how good they were in the regular season, that them making them losing in the second round is looked at as a negative. But really, when you look at the Florida Panthers organization and their history,
right,
making it that far is a big positive for them.
Right, they did win a round.
Yeah,
like, they can't say
for the first time in
Toronto. What did you think of the Toronto
years.
Tampa Bay? I actually thought Toronto was the better team.
They were. Toronto outplayed Tampa in that series more often than Tampa outplayed Toronto. Actually, I think this is everyone loves to rag on the Leafs, and as a Bruins fan, I certainly do too. But this is one where this wasn't a bad loss. Like this was just.
I thought they should have won Game 6, and I thought the refs did. And I also thought in the overtime, Alex Killorn was jet skiing behind Austin.
That was holding. That was.
I don't know how you don't fucking call that.
So blatant.
I just thought it was awful officiating in against the Leafs. And look, did I have a vested interest in the Leafs winning? Yes, I wanted to see our boy Hot Take Hockey get to celebrate.
Yeah.
You got to as a Bruins fan, right? You know what it feels like. I got to as a Capitals fan. I know what it feels like. I often say this. Just because your sports team doesn't mean it wins, doesn't mean your life is better.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt. It's a nice thing to see.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to see him get that round one. And
absolutely.
That was my selfish reasons for that. But I literally thought they outplayed Tampa. And
I did too. This was not the year to, make fun of Toronto or rag on them for losing this year. Now, if you want to look back to, them losing to Columbus in the bubble, that was embarrassing. And, some of their earlier losses, you can, sure. But this year, man, they played well. And that was just a series where you had two really good hockey teams going back and forth. And somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. And at the end of the day,
I think Toronto would have beat Florida too.
Oh, the way that Florida played, I think everybody would have beat Florida the way that they played in the second round.
Did you hear Giroux's comments about Florida going back? It looks like that's where he wants to go back.
Oh, I have not heard that.
Yeah, I saw a little bit about that, and I don't know. I think they were happy with the organization where it's going. I did find that it was a little bit of a kind of, I don't want to say dickish move, that Drew kind of had the Flyers held hostage a little bit there and was like, I'm only going to go to Florida.
Yeah, he dropped the I'm only going here.
That being said, though, they got a decent haul for him.
Yeah, no, they did, especially considering that he basically had him in a stranglehold like he did. I mean, a player at that point, is in a, Giroux knew he was in a position where he could do that, but I probably wouldn't pull that if I was a player. But at the same time, if you're Giroux, you definitely, you want to go to a good team. But I don't think I'd ever try and put a team, especially a team like the Flyers, where he literally spent his entire career up to that point with. I don't think I'd ever put an organization in a position where I'd say it's this team, like that's it. I would see him saying no to a non-playoff team.
Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah, why would you? Yeah,
I would have given him a few options to say, here, or here, whatever the best.
Well, but I mean, why would you? If you're the Flyers, I mean, you're good. Why would a non-playoff team trade for a guy?
They wouldn't. Unless there was some sort of extension in place already, where it was going to be a sign and trade type thing. But
who do you think the Flyers were the biggest disappointment in the NHL? If not, who was your biggest
oh
disappointment?
man, well, yeah, Philly definitely. Well, Philadelphia was pretty bad, just because. Although my personal expectations for them were not that high going into this year, I kind
Yeah,
of felt like this was going to happen with Philly because I didn't like a lot of their offseason moves, particularly
yeah.
the Rasmus Ristolainen move. I could not. I don't still to this day
Yeah,
do
I
not
didn't
understand.
understand it either, my
Do
man.
not understand what the infatuation with Rasmus Ristolainen is. The
He's
dude's
a top
an
pick,
absolute
dude.
traffic cone back there. He's one of the worst defensive players. I don't
I
I
love
don't
it,
get that.
man.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not a Ristolainen guy at all. But I definitely the Flyers disappointing this year. Obviously, the Islanders, after back-to-back conference finals to not even make the playoffs. I mean,
Yeah,
they had a lot of extenuating circumstances that
yeah,
kind of led to that. So I'm
yeah,
not going to be as hard on the Islanders because they had, played, 13, 14 straight road games to start the season. Then right when they went back home, they got nailed with COVID and had to play with an AHL roster for a week.
yeah,
And like
yeah.
they had so much go against
And they
them this
could
year.
not win. They went on if you lose
Yep.
10 in a row in the NHL
Yeah.
early in the year, it's hard to recover.
Yeah.
Because
Another one
you're
that
gonna
stands
go.
out.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry, go ahead.
Another one that stands out to me as a major disappointment and might be my top pick is the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh, I agree. That was mine.
Winnipeg, I mean, that team is supposed to be a consistent playoff team, and they just absolutely kind of
Well, and
wasted a year this year.
I mean, I heard all kind of pundits, Jesse Pollock, talk about how the PLD thing was going to be a big deal for them, and I thought he was a huge disappointment for
Yeah,
them.
he wasn't very good.
And I think that Columbus got the better end of that because Line A is a goal scorer, and those are hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, he's not Ovechkin, and he's not the most abrasive guy.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Put him out on the fucking point in the power play and have him score some fucking goals.
Yeah.
Like, don't complicate it here. So what if he's not Patrice fucking Bergeron? Don't play him in defensive situations then, morons.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Like, use this fucking guy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the argument. Like, I never understood that. Like, don't make the player that's fucking not good at something do it. If you can avoid it. If you have a guy that can play two ways, don't play. I know you want to give him more minutes, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, Alan, I get off this fucking Line A soapbox, but it's like,
yeah, no, I agree. Like when you're the coach, you want to put your players in a position to succeed.
right.
And like, Liney's a guy that sure, he's probably not going to do that great if he's starting in his defensive zone all the time. Like that, you got to be able to coach that to where, all right, well, we're going to get Liney out there for offensive zone faceoffs. We're going to get him out there for power play time. Obviously, we're going to try and put him in a situation where he's spending more time offensive than trying to play defensively because that's not his strong suit. And it seems like, rather than
we don't need him to be this sulky, though. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
exactly.
We don't
Like
need
that's
him
not
to
his
be.
game. Like
Get
put
a
him in a
fucking
different
Brandon
situation.
Dubinsky type player there. Get another guy. Get a Boone Jenner. Whoever you got on your team that you trust in those situations. You know what I'm saying? Getting real chippy in this game. 5-2 still. 5:21 left in the third.
Good.
I like it.
There's been some real animosity. There's been some real animosity between Carolina and New York. And it's good because it's funny going into this round, that was the only one that wasn't, a rivalry, matchup, so to say. You had the Battle of Alberta.
Both in the Metro, I think.
Yeah, but that's not like you had the Battle of Alberta.
Yeah.
One of the best rivalries ever. You had
I was disappointed that didn't go 7. I think
the games were great. The only thing that sucked about it was it ended in 5 because I wanted it to go more. You had the Battle of Florida, which ended up sucking and being extremely one-sided, but you still had that Florida Tampa
Yeah.
in-state
Oh,
rivalry.
but what a letdown, though, for it to be a sweep.
Massive
That's a
letdown. That's been the
6-game
most
series.
disappointing series of the playoffs.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
If it's a 6-game series, I'm happy. You know,
Yeah.
like it doesn't have to be a 7. I mean, I want them all to go 7, and
Yeah,
especially
that's
for
better for
streamers
me
like
too.
you.
Yeah.
I do feel for you, though. The other night I was on the stream and it was like, motherfucker, we're going to overtime. It's
Oh
like,
yeah. Well, the late games here on I'm on the East
oh,
Coast. The late
yeah,
games are going till 1 in the morning. So when those
dude.
games go to overtime, it sucks for me.
I
But
feel for you, brother, because I'm sitting here looking at sun
yep.
till 11:15 Alaska time.
Yeah.
Like, love it. It's gorgeous out. I'll go paddleboarding out on the lake after this, after this interview, after the show's over.
Yeah.
So, like, I freaking love it. I always say if you don't have to work a normal job, Alaska is one of the greatest places to live because you can watch all the stuff early, like football. And then I have the afternoon to just kind of relax, it doesn't just soak up my whole day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
East Coast, it's kind of, it's where everything goes late. Everything's late, late, and
Yeah, you're all night owls. You have to be if you want
yeah,
to
you
go
have to
sports.
be
Yeah.
because
If you ever move to the West Coast, man, you won't know what to do with yourself because you'll just love it. Yeah, everything is on 4 hours earlier, so
yep, you have all this time afterwards.
So, hey, Steph, Larry's calling me. Would you ring him? I can't answer. We're live on the thing. So call Larry Apolite if you can. My friend Larry Apolite, Vietnam veteran, has like 140 confirmed kills. I do not want to make him very mad. He's a nice guy, though. He's a good dude. He's a retired sergeant major. He's family. So we're buddies. He's a big gamer, too, man. He's a cool guy. You'd be like, whoa. How old are you, dude? 70s?
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
He's into kid shit,
Wow.
Yeah, and he listens to gangster rap. It's hilarious.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah. Man, I like getting to know, this is why I like having people like you on. I like getting to know people from all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wherever, because it's just a good thing to, to do.
Yeah,
A lot of people are very short-sighted nowadays, and they want to listen to the same thing and not hear what dissenting viewpoints are. And stuff,
everyone wants to stay in their little box and not have to deal with anything outside
confirmation
of it.
bias, and you live in. I just never thought it was based in reality, and I don't like it. It bothers me.
It's not based in reality because in the real world, there's all different viewpoints. Everybody has to come together. And
it's just kind of I'm kind of getting sick of the divisiveness and stuff. I feel
100%.
Just getting old, and it's frustrating and sad when you see like terrible things like happen in Texas and stuff. So, but you guys tuned in to listen to us talk about hockey, so that's what we're going to talk about. But doesn't mean we don't have, an opinion like the rest of America. So, I got to say that was without question that Florida Tampa series was the hugest letdown.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see Florida push Tampa to the max. I thought that could be a 7-game series. I did pick Tampa to go, and I don't know what it was. But Tampa at the end of the year just started beating the crap out of teams like they were getting ready for the playoffs. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Just when I thought I wouldn't bet against Tampa. So I picked them to go all the way to the finals and lose to Colorado. That was my bracket. In fact, I've gotten everyone right except for your series. And I had like you, I had, no disrespect to Carolina. I just was concerned. Ronta has played some playoff games, very limited, was not good. I still would say if Carolina loses this, I would not put it on Ronta. Ronta has played fine.
Yeah, no, he's done well.
It's just Sturkin is otherworldly. I will say this, and I don't know how you feel, because I watch a lot of Rangers games because my wife is a Rangers fan.
Yep.
The Rangers, when they let like 50 shots on Shesterkin, for some reason, seem to play better in my
opinion.
Yeah. You know what I want? I don't want to say this, but did you watch the Champions League today with me, Real Madrid and
No, I did not.
Because you're out working. No, anyway, Real Madrid defended the whole game and then countered once, scored, and that was it. They just defended. Yep. And I feel like the Rangers, like they might be just better off with the defend, counterattack.
Yep.
And so I think they're going to win Game 7 against Carolina because I think they have the players like Zibanejad and Panarin when they are playing up to their potential. They're the best in the world, right, at those positions. I mean, Zibanejad lit the Caps up for 5 goals in one game. I was like, yeah, I've never doubted that guy's talent. I've always liked him. I always thought Ottawa sneaky lost bad on that one. It's not.
Oh, they did. They lost bad big time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like Brassard and stuff, but like,
no, he's no Zibanejad.
And Zibanejad's a great defensive player too. I could see him being a Selke guy if he's really playing. Like, my thing with him is, I wonder if he has that. I want to be aggressive all the time, but
see, my issue with him is consistency. He's when he's at the top of his game, he is incredibly good, but he is not playing at that level all the time. He kind of has ebbs and flows where sometimes he's on it and then other times he kind of disappears.
He's the streakiest player of that ability I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because when he's really good, he's like, who the hell is this guy?
Yep.
And when he's invisible, you're like, oh, you don't even notice him.
And he does go invisible that way too
a bit. What?
He does go invisible sometimes.
Yeah. It's funny. It does. They were saying he was doing a little bit against Pittsburgh and Sidney Crosby, and I was like, dude, okay, like, is that because Zibanejad sucks, or is that because Crosby is like that good?
Yeah.
And really, it's because he's so smart. Because Crosby's not even that good. I think Malkin's a better skater than Crosby. But Crosby's just so smart. He's never in the wrong spot. So he doesn't have to be the fastest and the best because he's not. Ovechkin, like I always said, of course he's who he is. His mother was like a 2-time gold medalist in basketball, and his father was like a pro soccer player. I think Crosby's dad was like a plumber or something.
Yeah.
Nothing against Crosby. I'm just saying, like, and then look, Wayne Gretzky is the greatest of all time, right? Like, he doesn't look like anything special, so it doesn't matter. That's what I love about hockey, right? You don't have to be the biggest and the strongest. And in fact, sometimes that's been Eric Lindros didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
Chris Pronger, it did.
Yeah, I think the way that you think the game is extremely important in hockey, and that's where Crosby's kind of always been a step ahead of everybody else. His
I never thought it was a fair comparison to him, even compare him to Ovechkin. Ovechkin's a winger.
Yeah, they're so different. They're so different. I hate that comparison.
Yeah,
people are always asking.
He's gonna be one of the all-time hits leaders when he retires.
They're just completely different style of players. There's no comparing the two.
I like the Bergeron-Crosby comparison more because they play the same position. They're not that far in the draft. Crosby's 05, Bergeron's 03. That's 2 years apart.
Yeah.
That's not that big a difference. They're both Canadian.
Yeah. Okay. Crosby was always obviously a much bigger point producer.
Yeah.
But Bergeron's defensive lockdown abilities, but Crosby's a great defensive player, and Bergeron has certainly been a more than adequate offensive player throughout his career too. So, but at least there you're comparing center.
I think we might be seeing a scrap post game. The refs are holding Ryan Reeves back like a bull in a china shop. Smith. He wants a bite of Smith. Oh, boy.
Brendan Smith doesn't want anything to do with that.
Yeah. No, Brendan Smith is but by no means, hey, no slight, Brendan Smith. I don't want to fight you. I would not want anything to do with Ryan Reeves if I was Brendan Smith.
There's like maybe 3 or 4 guys left in the league that would want anything to do with Ryan Reeves, and that's about it.
I think Tom Wilson. I think Tom Wilson is a big boy, and he could take on Ryan Reeves. I think he just chooses not to at this point because he was calm Wilson this year. He didn't take very many fights.
Yeah, Wilson hardly dropped the gloves this year. He was very.
We need him. The thing is, John, we need him. I mean, he's really our top right winger now because TJ Oshie is just so banged up.
And Oshie's getting older now too.
Yeah, he just could not stay in the lineup this year. Yeah, I think he's 34. Yeah, I think this is the last year. He's got 1 year left on his deal. So Rangers won 5-2, if you didn't know. Yeah. Really appreciate you joining us. We have Jon Duncan. Maybe we take some calls, John. We can have some people come on and ask questions like in this video format. But I'm not done talking playoff hockey with you yet. So, but if you got to go, we can go. Just let me know how it is. I know it's late there and you work your ass off and you do
I'm
landscaping.
in. I'm having fun.
Okay, well, cool, man. I'm enjoying this conversation. It's great. I'm loving hearing your opinion. I've listened to a lot. I'm a subscriber to Jon's channel and I've listened to him do play-by-play a lot. I enjoy it a lot. I really appreciate you've been doing a shit ton for the playoffs, I know. And but isn't it kind of cool? Just like the thing that I found when I found this like hockey YouTube thing is that I always wanted a bunch of fans who liked hockey as much as I did.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like not based in any kind of reality, because how are you going to find these people? Well, there's this thing called the internet.
Yeah,
Hockey
YouTube
exists, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
And I love it. I've just met some of the coolest people that, you can have like respectful conversations with about, you're a Bruins fan. I'm a Cavs fan. Kim is a Isles fan. Hot Take Hockey. John Viveros is a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. Ray Bro, who's been in the chat. Ray Bro, thank you so much. Edmonton Oilers fan.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you got like your fans from your channel that have been there since day one.
Yep.
They're not Bruins fans.
All different teams
with you, and
all different teams.
It's cool, man. And I know you always sell on your channel like, hey, this is for all hockey fans.
Yep.
And and I also love like you don't care who wins. And you repeat that a lot in your things.
Yeah,
I don't care who wins.
Me.
I just want good hockey.
I'm just here enjoying the game.
It warms my heart every time it rings. The only thing you've ever said better than those words are, this is hockey, not basketball. And we've got to get a collab going.
Yeah, we got to get some merch out with that.
Ever. And we need like a picture of some dude, like a 70s, we'll have to get some non-copyrighted photo, right? We'll find something where some dude's just getting his teeth knocked out or he's getting slashed with a stick. And then we'll have a picture of Ben Simmons in street clothes. And that'll be our shirt, John.
Yeah.
Collab done.
Yeah.
Sports Spirit and Off the Wall Hockey collab will, and all proceeds will go to Off the Wall. But, I would love to do it, my man. We'll get that worked out. I know we were talking about that. So we are going to have a game 7.
I can't wait. Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night. You're going to be streaming?
I will definitely be streaming game 7. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, dude, I'm going to join your chat for game 7 for this, because it's going to be good luck for my wife because we had you on. Mm-hmm. So, but we're making it sound like we're saying goodbye. We're not. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the playoffs, because we haven't gotten to all the series yet. Colorado, St. Louis was a banger.
Yep.
And I think either one of those teams could win the Stanley Cup. And I think we're going to game 7 if Jordan Binnington's healthy. I don't know where you're.
Binnington's injury definitely affected that series, no doubt. He was playing so well, but man, both of those teams were really good. And there's another rivalry matchup that we got in the second round. The Blues and Avs, division rivals, and have really built that up over the last few years. I loved watching that series. Those games were a lot of fun. And man, I'm so happy for Colorado to finally get over that second round hump.
I agree.
I said this back before the playoffs started when I was doing my original predictions for the playoffs. I said this Colorado team reminds me of the 2018 Washington Capitals so much. You have the star player who hasn't won a cup yet in Nathan McKinnon, like Ovechkin was in 2018.
Right.
You have a team that is consistently great in the regular season, but has this hurdle in the playoffs that they can't get over. For the Capitals, it was the Pittsburgh Penguins. They kept meeting them in the second round, and they kept losing.
I don't know if you ever saw, too, like just on what you were saying, they asked Ovechkin about that, and he goes, when we beat Pittsburgh, we knew we were winning the whole thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
And with Colorado, it was that second round. They could not get by that second round. Right. Now they got by. They've made it past that big block that they couldn't get past.
Sort of like the Blues with the Blackhawks. The Blues had to get by the Blackhawks, and then they broke through and won the cup.
Yep, and with Colorado, I think they could very much do what Washington did in 2018 and finally just get it out there and go all the way. And I actually picked Colorado back in my bracket at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the playoffs.
Nice.
And,
yeah. Me too.
I think I see so many parallels with that 2018 Caps team that I'm like, if they finally get by that second round, this might be the year where they just go all the way.
And I hope it's against Tampa, and I hope it's a 7-game series and it's like triple overtime.
That would be incredible.
I just to block them from getting 3-0 against Tampa, because I actually don't dislike them. I just can't.
No, I actually. I don't
hate
dislike
about
Tampa,
team?
even though they're a division rival to the Bruins. I've actually been very impressed and full on respect what Tampa's done over the last few years, because it's not easy to do that.
Yeah.
And for them, Tampa, I mean, everyone forgets now 2019 when they got swept in the first round after, tying the record for most wins in the season.
No, I don't forget that. I don't forget that. I thought that was great.
Circling back to Florida, everyone's kind of ragging on Florida. Well, watch out next year, because Tampa was able to take that embarrassing playoff loss and harness it and come back stronger the next year. I think Florida could do that next season.
I'm with you. I actually agree 100%. I do think that this will be a plus for Florida. I think it will be a plus for them long term. But it is all embarrassing, especially the cross-state rival. And last year, I think that series went 5. You put up more of a fight last year, and they loaded up. I mean, they went and got Sherratt. I didn't hear his name at all in that series.
He was not worth what they traded for him.
They gave up I thought they kind of leveraged the farm a little bit there.
Yeah.
Getting him.
I've never been a big Ben Sherratt fan. I think he's fine as like a 5'6" type guy, but they were treating him like a top pair D-man, and he's not that.
I think what happened was he was on that Montreal team that caught Toronto, where they were still a little bit soft. And, Matthews didn't know how to manhandle his way into goals and stuff, which he did this year.
Yep.
And again, I believe Toronto should have beat Tampa. I think Toronto was the better team in that series.
Yep.
And they outscored them, and Tampa won the series. And I know Vasilevsky, and now he's hot. I just think his confidence is super high. I mean, that's because I did not think Bobrovsky was the problem for Florida.
No.
Florida couldn't score on the power play, and the Caps were depleted.
Yeah.
Depleted.
I mean, Florida scored one power play goal in the playoffs? I
mean, and they lost that game.
Yeah.
They lost that game, so it didn't matter.
Bobrovsky was not bad for Florida at all.
No.
Vasilevsky's back to being just ridiculous.
Don't you think when they just get on that roll, though, that's the worst thing for a team like that, or for everybody else that's playing?
Yeah, it's the worst thing for everybody else, because when they get hot, they just get super hot. And Vasilevsky in goal, when he playoff, the way that he can just flip it on in the playoffs is absolutely just insane to me.
But if we're primed for an upset, you've got Carolina and New York, who played a 7-game series, and they're going to be on edge, right?
Yeah.
And when you have that layoff, I was a little bit concerned about Colorado going into St. Louis, because I was I also picked St. Louis to beat Minnesota, because that's another team that has hurdles to get over. In St. Louis.
Minnesota's playoff history is not good.
Well, but they were 15-3 or something against the St. Louis Blues in the last it was terrible. I was like, oh my God, they're not winning.
Yeah, the Blues have dominated that season series. So the Blues have always kind of had the Wild number. And then you have the Wild's playoff struggle on top of that. Absolutely, St. Louis was definitely a good pick for that series. And they came in and they played really, well. They were able to come from behind. They were down 2-1 in that series, and then came back.
That could have easily been a 7-game series too. Darkness says, don't forget Krug was also hurt.
No Krug. I mean, that hurts the back end big time for the Blues.
No, I mean, it's him and Parenko are their top guys. Krug is that quarterback power play guy. He did that for you guys in Boston when he was with Boston. Really,
he got a lot of power play points and was a great guy to have back there. That happens. A lot of times the playoffs come down to who can stay healthy. Every year, injuries play a significant role in the playoffs, and
the Capitals and Pittsburgh both had bad. I mean, Dumoulin's probably their best defenseman now. So let's talk a little bit about Pittsburgh. I have a question because I talked about this with Kim a little bit too. If you were Pittsburgh, would you keep Letang or Malkin? Or you can only keep one.
Man, it's tough because I don't think Pittsburgh right now has I don't think they have a replacement for either, really. But I feel like they're deeper up front than they are on the back end. So I think if Malkin goes, like that they can sign a free agent, and they have some forward depth there where defensively, like there's not much there past their top 6 guys.
I heard Malkin it would hurt to more. Boston from Boston Connor on that Pat McAfee show. So he's a little biased, but I laughed, but then I was like, wait a minute, low key Malkin to Boston would be kind of an interesting thing. How would
That'd
you feel?
Be huge.
Especially with no Bergeron. Do you think he would fit well in that? Would he fit well in that system with Boston? Because I don't know if Malkin's good enough two-way to be a favorite of Cassidy. That's why I asked. No, but
I think he'd be an interesting addition. He'd be very interesting in that locker room because he's kind of out there.
Well, I right now want the Caps to get him because Nick Backstrom can't come back. The Caps can afford to bring Malkin in.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Malkin and Ovechkin play because I will tell you, I think it's often forgotten that Malkin is a Hart Trophy winner and a Conn Smythe.
Yeah. And, I think Malkin's a better player than Letang, but I think from Pittsburgh's perspective, they can afford to lose a forward more than they can afford to lose a defense.
I keep Letang too, and just his ability to move the puck on the back end. I mean, he's not going to lose that, even if he's not the fastest, best defenseman anymore. You just try not to put him in those defensive situations as much. If you can possibly help it, like we were talking about, let's not make Line A into the Selke. Doesn't need to be. Just use them where you need to use them, And I think like I think like Ovechkin had to learn this. Yzerman, a lot of these guys, what happens is when you play a good two-way game, it actually builds your offensive game.
Yeah.
And then the really skilled offensive guys realize this, and once they come to that realization, that's what's happening with Connor McDavid. I believe.
Yeah, when you play well defensively, you get the counterattack opportunities. You get the odd man rushes off of steals. Like that whole part of the game opens up where you can put up a lot of points just on counterattacks because you made a great defensive play. And that does make you a better offensive player in turn.
Yeah, I just think once you see that commitment to defense and from those really highly skilled offensive players in the playoffs and such, and that's what's happening with Tampa, and they're all committing to like blocking shots. And I will say this, we already kind of talked Tampa, but going out, and they've been playing better.
Yeah, which is insane because I think Braden Point's their best center. And he's out
also
of the lineup.
Like most clutch dude in the playoffs.
He plays better in the playoffs than he does in the regular season. He's their top line center. He's out, misses the series, and it's like you didn't even notice that he wasn't there. They were still playing so well.
I thought Florida really just missed an opportunity. And as much as Barkov and Huberdeau don't get the praise they rightfully deserve, even though I believe Barkov did win the Selke a year or two ago.
He did win it last year.
Yeah. So he's starting to get it. They were disappearing acts in that. They did nothing against Tampa.
And they didn't really get the flack either because it's Florida. They don't get the hype, but they don't get the flack.
No, either. There's the pros and cons to being in that market for sure.
Yeah, if let's say Barkov and Huberdeau were playing in, Edmonton, Toronto, Montreal, Boston, New York, a big market like that, and played like that in a playoff series, they would have been ripped to shreds in the media. And
I thought Huberdeau and Barkov both were disappearing acts. I thought
they did not play well in that series against Tampa. And really, I couldn't name you any Panthers that really played well in that series against Tampa. That I was just so disappointed with Florida. Not just that they lost, because it would be one thing if they were losing like good back and forth close games.
Yeah. I would have been fine with a 7-game series. I picked them to lose.
Yeah, I was disappointed that they didn't even show up to the series. And how you do that against your in-state rival in the playoffs is beyond me.
Yeah, I was blown away by how abysmal they were against Tampa, especially with Tampa not having point. Again, I thought Tampa got lucky getting past the Leafs.
Yeah.
That was their toughest series. And a lot of times when you see a team that gets through a really tough first round series, like the Caps, the year we won, we were down 2-0 to
Columbus.
The Columbus Blue Jackets, and they yanked Grubauer.
Holtby comes back in, and
Holtby takes over his old Vezina form. Mitch Korn coached up, bam, 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 and all she wrote. We beat Pittsburgh in 6. We beat Tampa in 7. And you know, like to hear, you know, you just know when you have the confidence. Like, we had to get by Pittsburgh. Like, that was the thing. It's often forgotten that Pittsburgh had, you know, Crosby, Malkin, and then with the first year they had Jordan Staal, you know. They had that center depth that the Caps just didn't have. You know, that's you guys. Like, when you had Krejci and Bergeron and all those deep centers, how does Boston regain their where are they at there? Do you think
I think it's heading downhill before it ever heads back up again.
Yeah, because that 15 draft was where you had the 3 picks that they basically missed.
Blew them all.
Missed on all of them, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, DeBrusk had a 20-goal year this year, but he's so inconsistent.
I thought for sure they were trading him.
I was too, honestly. I was so shocked when he wasn't gone at the trade deadline, but he actually ended up having a really good second half of the season. I just don't trust him to consistently play at that level, because he never has put it together consistently at any point. It's always been up and down, up and down. They're gonna be rebuilding at some point. I don't know if I don't think it's gonna be a full strip down and rebuild like like Detroit did or anything like that, because McAvoy's still young, Pasternak's still young. They've got pieces there. There's definitely going to be a few years where they're kind of stripping it back, though, and resetting. And that's coming sooner rather than later. It's pretty much at this point, do they want to do it this offseason, or do they want to do it after?
Well, that's what kind of made the Lindholm thing a little bit puzzling.
I think they're looking at Lindholm to be McAvoy's partner for, like, that's going to be the top D pair for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a good pickup by them, by the way, and I don't know what the fuck Anaheim was doing there. That made no sense to me at all.
Well, Anaheim's in a position now where they can't keep a lot of their older guys, because they've got a lot of young.
Oh, they are going to be good. Yes, I think they are borderline a playoff team next year. I think people are sleeping on them, especially with who they have between the nets. If they still have Gibson there, I think they could make some noise. But
Anaheim's up and coming. They had a really good first half of the year this year, but then they sputtered in the second half.
Well, not to get off Boston, because I want to go back to them. I wanted to ask you about Taylor Hall. What was your opinion on him with this? This was his first year with the team, right? And
his first full season. He was good. I mean, he was a good player for the Bruins. He's always been more of an assist guy than a scorer. People I don't know where the whole idea of him being a big scorer ever came from. He did have 39.
He had that Hart Trophy year.
He had the one Hart Trophy year where he had 39, but he's never been a huge goal scorer. He's always been more of a playmaker and kind of just like a play driver who steps up his line mates.
And he's a winger too, though.
But he plays that more setup style. It kind of reminds me of, obviously not nearly to the level, but it reminds me of Kucherov, where like Kucherov's more of a setup guy, and he could rip off 70 assists in a season. Hall plays that kind of play driving, pass it off type of style. And I have no complaints with him this year. He had a very solid year. He's a guy that you have to play with other talent. He's not a guy that's going to drive it, do it all himself. But if you put him on a line, like in the second half of the year, when they put him in Pastrnak on the same line, those two lit it up together. I think, if you have talent on the line with him, he's going to produce, and he did this year.
Yeah. I'll just say this. I have always thought he was like one of the dumbest hockey players ever, but his ability has gotten him by.
Yeah, he's super
But he is
talented.
a decent passer and stuff, like, and I do think he's not like a liability defensively. I think he does take some dumb shit penalties sometimes, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, I just feel like when you're talking hockey IQ, I don't think he's super high.
No, but he's talented, and if you put him with talent around him, he produces points.
We got Raybro wants to chime in. He says Hall is a very good finisher, not a play driver.
Well, he's not a goal scorer. He never has been. He's always been way more of an assist guy.
Yeah, I just have never been a huge fan of his game ever, and always kind of thought he played dumb hockey and played down to the ability of people he was playing against. And I always thought Boston won that thing getting Tyler Seguin. And honestly, I think, had Seguin not had a lot of injury problems the last couple of years, I still think he had 20 goals this year, still pretty dang good player.
Yeah, he's had
he helped you guys win that cup. And I mean,
big time. And he was just a kid, and he helped us win that cup big time. He didn't even play that much in the playoffs, but when he did come in and start playing, he played really well.
He was offensive. I remember him being like a threat offensively.
Yeah, and that Bruins team needed all the offense they could get because they were a very good defensive team, but their offense was inconsistent. Yeah. So when they needed that boost offensively, Seguin could come in, and he was a big time boost in the scoring department.
So you feel like Boston's window is still open, but it's going to be...
No, I think they might be a playoff team again next year. Their cup window is done. They're not a cup team.
Yeah, I get you there. I feel that. I feel probably the same with the Caps. I thought this was probably our last shot. And then just hearing how banged up the team was, it was like, there's no way.
Yeah. The last couple years, I figured Boston's not cup level. They're still playoff level, but they're not cup level. And now, sooner rather than later, they're not going to – there'll be some years where they're not playoff level unless they make some sort of, big trade or some huge signing that really pans out. With the way that it's going right now, they're headed back down.
I'm with you. Yeah, I feel like we're all probably in that rebuilding mode. I'd like to see a little bit more of Connor McMichael and Hendrix Lapierre on the Caps lineup and stuff like that. I'm sure there are some guys you want to see. Well, we could take some calls or we could call it a night, man. I really appreciate you giving me the time. We've been going. Do you want to talk to some of the fans that came in and popped in, or do you want to just say,
absolutely.
Okay,
we can take them.
I may actually ask you to answer a couple on screen without me on there because, as you get older, you can't sit forever. But, so guys, if you want to come on the show, click the link and you can ask a question to John Off the Wall Hockey. John, go ahead and plug Off the Wall for real quick there, and we'll see if we get anybody on the show.
All right. Yeah. Off the Wall Hockey on YouTube and pushing towards 10,000 subscribers, doing a lot of streams in the playoffs this year, calling games, talking hockey, a lot of fun. OTW Hockey on Instagram, Off the Wall Hawk on Twitter, socials, just to kind of, another platform to bring up hockey stuff and push, videos and everything. And just trying to enjoy hockey. And we got all kinds of different or fans from all different teams and a lot of people on the channel that are pretty regular in the chats and whatnot. And just enjoying the playoff season right now, and obviously got big time stuff in the off season coming up with all the the draft. Then you've got free agency, trades, all of that, getting ready for next year, and then right into it next season. Another 82 games in the regular season and a full playoffs coming in next year in 2022-23. So lots of different content, lots of great people, and a lot of fun to do for sure.
I look forward to it, man. I think you are one of the best hockey guys on YouTube, and I am glad I found you. And I'm happy to call you friend, and I appreciate you coming on the show. We do have a caller. It is our friend in Edmonton, Raybro.
Oh, let's go,
Raybro. What's up, buddy? What do you got for John?
Nothing much really.
Okay. You just came to waste your time, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I was wondering, Well, what do you think about the reffing in terms of this season's playoffs? Obviously, there's a lot of controversy between the last couple of years with the refs being very inconsistent and chalking up to it's just playoff hockey, so we're just gonna let it slide. I mean, as you can see with Edmonton, you see Connor McDavid getting a lot more penalties getting drawn. Him drawing a lot more penalties as the rest are kind of being a little bit strict. But I want to know your thoughts about the reffing this season, this playoffs.
I mean, I just wish it would be consistent. That's the biggest thing. Like, I feel like they're calling a lot of penalties this playoffs, which is I'm old school. Like, I grew up on Don Cherry's Rock'em Sock'em hockey. Like, I want, like, I'm all for the let the boys play. And I like when it's a little bit more like, if it's egregious, call it, but if not, just let the boys play. But if they're at some point, like, obviously last year it was cross-checking. I remember a couple years ago it was slashing. There's always like one thing that's out of control that they got to put a stop to. I'm fine with them calling penalties. I just wish that they could find some sort of consistency where games are being called the same. But we're not seeing that, where it seems like every ref calls the game differently.
Yeah.
And that means on a night-to-night basis, on a game-to-game basis, it's the threshold is different, the calls are different, what's a penalty and what's not is different. And that's the thing that aggravates me. And I mean, when I was even playing hockey, that was aggravating. Like, if there's one thing as a hockey player you want, it's to know what you can do and what you can't, and whatever that is, set the standard wherever you want to set the standard. I don't really care, but once you set that standard, stick to that standard. And it's the inconsistency that really aggravates me. And I think that, again, yes, they're calling more penalties this year. They're not getting away with as much egregious stuff as they have maybe the past few years, but it's still not consistently being called. It's still all over the place, and that's really tough to play with, because you go into a game as a player not really knowing how the rules are going to be called.
Did you get a chance to listen to Tim Peel on Spit and Chicklets?
No, I haven't heard that.
Oh,
no.
It's if you get the chance, I think it's a 90-minute interview, so it's an hour and a half. But I know if you're outside working, maybe you get a chance to listen to it.
Yep.
I hated him when he was a ref. He follows me on Twitter, by the way. Thank you, Tim Peel. What a great interview. And it was like, he was like, no ref, because he explained, like he said he just misworded the Nashville thing. He was like, he thought it was a penalty. Legit, he thought it was a penalty, what he saw. And then he said, looking back, it wasn't a great call. Yeah. But he said, he emphasized this a bunch. He goes, no ref wants to make a game-deciding call.
Yep.
I'm with it. And I actually thought that Edmonton-Calgary series was actually pretty well officiated until they let that Calgary goal not count. And I don't know what the hell happened there. And I thought there was a little bit of, okay, we're going to let McDavid have another run at this. And I would have liked to have seen a game 6 in that series. And they missed out, because that Battle Alberta, I think Calgary could have came back in that series easy, and thought that they kind of got the short end of the stick with that call. I mean, it changed. I mean, they completely had the go-ahead goal with like less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, that was obviously.
The pressure was going to be on Edmonton. And when they started, I go, oh, they're going to fuck them. They're fucking them here. Because once it started looking, I was like, and so it ruined it for me, man, because I feel like, okay, I get it. You want McDavid to do well, but you don't have to. I don't like this kingmaker bullshit. Let him earn it. Don't hand it to him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I would say. It feels like there's a little bit of entitlement there. Oh, okay, I get it. It's Canada's game because nobody else can play hockey.
Yeah.
I like that. That's the American hockey fan in me that is a little bit like, has a little inferiority complex to things like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the thing about that call that made me mad was that there were way more clearly kicked pucks, like blatantly soccer.
But they called goals all year long. Year long.
Yeah, that were called goals. So whereas that one was close, where it was kind of him just his skate straight driving towards the net, which is supposed to be a goal, but then like it's like goalie interference. Like what is gonna be. Every time they go to review for goaltender interference, even when I'm on stream, I say this. I go, I'm not even going to attempt to predict how this call's going to go. Because I don't know. They call it
and there's no consistency.
They call it different every time.
Yeah, and it's that. I think what is troubling to a lot of hockey fans is it seems like when there's some vested interest in someone advancing, rest assured a call will go the way of that team. I'm not trying to get into conspiracy theories. I'm just saying I thought it was laughable that McDavid outdrew. Like, this is why I said Matthews is the heart, because he never got penalties called in his favor, and McDavid led the league. And I get it. McDavid is good, but he's not that much better than the next guy. He is good. He is good. It does not hurt McDavid that he also plays with a very also great hocky player and Draisaitl.
Yeah, having those two play together.
And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was a top 3 pick, I didn't know
he's almost an afterthought now. Yeah. He's almost an afterthought.
But he's definitely one of their best two-way players.
Oh, he's very good defensively. He does not get the credit that he should for his defensive play.
Well, and the coup they got was they got Evander Kane for next to nothing, and people just don't realize how good a player Evander Kane is.
Yeah, as much as the problems off the ice are with him, he's a great player on the ice. He's a very good goal scorer on the ice. And
I mean, he's a $7 million player, I think, or whatever the Sharks.
His contract with San Jose was $7 million a year.
Yeah, obviously. He's a $7 million player that they got for the league min.
Yeah, because of all the off the ice.
$7 million because, the Sharks are going to be on the hook for that, and I think so.
Yeah, Nugent-Hopkins he's so underrated now because they have McDavid and Draisaitl, who are like the standout stars. People forget about Nugent-Hopkins. He's been outstanding for Edmonton, and he's still, a fantastic, fantastic player.
Ray Bro said earlier, Jay Woodcroft has done a fantastic job behind the bench. He somehow made Keith and Barry effective D-men. Bouchard also elevated his game. I've heard, and look, I am not the biggest Duncan Keith fan. I thought he kind of skated with that controversy. And, the Chicago Blackhawks controversy, I kind of thought Gene Principe let him off the hook there. Fellow Gene Principe, not to be compared with Jack Edwards, but I always feel like never says anything negative about the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
Even if the guy is kind of not the highest quality human being, I just kind of don't necessarily agree with that. I think your job as media is not to be a fan. It's to cover the sport.
Yep.
Which I know is why you're not a big fan of Jack Edwards, because he is a fan.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it because he admits it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a fan, I'm going to root for my team.
Yeah.
The ones that are really slighted that you see on the, I thought Panger actually did a pretty good job calling the Colorado Blues series.
Yep.
But I'm sure Colorado fans hate him because they know he calls blue games for the Blues during the season. So it's like, but it is what it is. And the Colorado guys are hilarious too. I don't know if you ever tune into Altitude.
I haven't heard them.
They're like a very odd duck group of guys. Yeah, they will bring in John Michael Lyles live from his wine cellar and stuff.
Oh my.
Yeah, they're pretty wild. It's a pretty wild group. You should give it a shot. I don't know how you watch your hockey games, but so hey, John, you've been so gracious with your time. I don't want to go any longer. If anybody has one last call, go ahead and do it. But I do want to get your thoughts on the Stanley Cup final. You did say you picked Colorado in your bracket. That's who I picked preseason. I had Florida winning it all. The last 2 years I picked Colorado, but once the playoffs rolled around and we did the bracket challenge, I picked Colorado to beat Tampa Bay in the finals. That's what I think we're going to get. I picked them to beat the Rangers, Tampa to beat the Rangers in the conference finals, and I picked Colorado to beat I think I had Calgary. So I said I picked all the ones right, but I think I had Calgary in 7. I just thought Markstrom would be the difference.
Yeah.
Raybro was in here. I did not like Edmonton's D, and I still don't like them. And I think they're paper dragons. And I think Colorado is going to expose them because they're the deepest defensive team in the NHL left. I think they have 8 D. I mean, Jack Johnson's not really playing much, I think now he is because Girard's out.
Because Girard went out, yeah.
They can afford to lose Girard and really not miss. Eric Johnson, I think, was a #1 overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, back
by the Blues. Yeah. By the Blues, in fact. So
back in the mid-2000s.
And he's not even top-line D for them. So I just – and Makar is – when you think of magical players cancel each other out, right?
Yeah.
Because Crosby is the reason why people couldn't get by Crosby is because it's Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Fleury, whoever. I mean, Murray was fairly solid for them. Same with the Bruins. You got Bergeron and Marchand and McAvoy. And, if you don't have those guys to match those guys, you're not going to beat those guys. Well, Colorado has McKinnon and Makar. They cancel out McDavid. Who's got the rest? I think that's what it's come to. I think it'll be a closer series than people think. But
I think it's going to be a very close series.
Yeah. It'll be
the star power on each side is incredible.
Do you think Edmonton could win?
Oh yeah, with Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, Kane, Nuge, everybody producing the way that they are, Edmonton could win that absolutely.
Do you think
Colorado also?
Do you think they could win the whole cup, Edmonton?
Any team that makes it to the Final Four has a shot to win the Stanley Cup. You do not make it that far to not have a shot.
So you think their D, if they keep playing at the level they were playing?
They got to keep up the way they played against Calgary, But I mean, that's the big question: is can they play? Can they play that way for 2 more series, basically? Again,
I thought Edmonton caught Calgary at like their worst.
Yeah. Well, they caught Jacob Markstrom at his worst. That's for sure. Markstrom was
he was awful. I guess, though, he wasn't great against Edmonton throughout the year, too.
No, he always struggled against the Oilers.
Yeah, so he does not read the puck well against those guys or something because I think it's in between the years because he's one of the best goalies in the NHL. And quite frankly, he was a liability for Calgary in this series.
Absolutely.
I thought he was god-awful. That being said, fellow Alaskan Jeremy Swayman was really good for the Bruins, and I did not think he was the reason you guys lost. No, in fact, I think when they made the switch, he was the reason you hung on as long as you did.
Boston got better with him in net. Absolutely.
I didn't blame him at all in that series loss to Carolina, and I thought, again, I told you that one could go either way. I thought Carolina was just they were the better team. They were deeper, healthier.
They're definitely deeper, big time.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. And go ahead and plug your stuff one more time, and then we'll outro.
All right. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. It was awesome talking hockey with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man.
And so Off the Wall Hockey on YouTube. Just type that into the search, and it will come right up for you. And then obviously socials, OTW Hockey on Instagram, Off the Wall Hawk on Twitter, where I push out a lot of my content and post other just a quick opinion stuff on there and things like that. So that's where you can find me. I cover the NHL, primarily mostly focused on the NHL. And
this is hockey, not basketball.
Yeah, certainly hockey, not basketball. And just a huge hockey fan in general. I cover the whole league, all the teams, and just trying to build a community in a place where all different fans can come together and just enjoy hockey, talk about it, and have as much fun as possible for sure.
Well, dude, I love going to your show. I love you. You're a great play-by-play guy. I'm a subscriber. I'm biased, but I really recommend Jon. If you want a great guy to talk hockey with, he is the guy, man. Hey, Jon, if you don't mind hanging out after I end the show, I'd just like to talk to you a little bit if you can. So I really appreciate everybody showing up and showing out. It was really cool to get everybody in. I hope please leave a like, please subscribe. Definitely check out Off the Wall Hockey, one of my faves. He is great, awesome play-by-play. Don't ask him who he's rooting for because he doesn't care. Just let him call the game, man. Just let him call the game, and he's great. You can talk. If you have real legit hockey questions, you can ask him, and he's a great, great resource, man. So I appreciate him, man. I appreciate you guys showing up, showing out. Thanks so much for coming to the Sports Beer. Jon, again, an hour and a half, man. I really appreciate it. Let's
thank you.
I'll do the outro here.